How you doing? And welcome to my channel. Today I'm having a look at the Beetlejuice from Beetlejuice Beetlejuice by Hot Toys. As you can see from the box, we have an image of the figure on the front there. I always mention it. I always like having a picture of the figure on the box. Although it is altered a little bit, there's a little bit of a graininess over it, but I'm still pleased to see the figure on the cover. Alternate head sculpt in the corner, and then we have an image of Bob here in this corner, which I would normally take as a hint that we're going to get that figure, but I can't see Hot Toys making Bob. I could see Sideshow making him, but I can't see Hot Toys making him at all. On the bottom we have Beetlejuice MMS 767 16 collectible figure, and then on the side we have Beetlejuice, and then on the back we have the usual warnings and details about Hot Toys. And while I take off this slip cover, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If I can get this cover off, it's fighting with me. There we go. On the back, we have some more artwork of the figure Beetlejuice with the microphone in his hand, and then the alternate head sculpt, and then his gravestone or headstone in the background as well. So there we have it for the box for Beetlejuice. Moving on, let's do a pan of the figure. So here we are for a quick pan of Beetlejuice, and the original Beetlejuice movie never gave us much information about who or what Beetlejuice was or is, whether he was a poltergeist or a demonic entity. So the sequel gives us a bit more insight into the character, and it's rumoured that the character Beetlejuice is heavily inspired by Rumpelstiltskin and the story of Rumpelstiltskin. If you're familiar with the story, you'll understand that. The sequel shows us that before his death he was a grave robber during the plague, and it's also explained that he was poisoned by Dolores, played by Monica Bellucci, which explains how he looks. And in the Burton lore of Beetlejuice, it is explained in the original movie that people who end their own lives end up as civil servants. So why is Beetlejuice working for Juno, or why is he a civil servant if he didn't take his own life? Well, it's theorized that technically he drank the poison himself that ended his life, so technically it is self-harm, and explains why he feels so hard done by and spends so long trying to break the rules of the afterlife. But with that said, in the original 1988 script, he does end his own life, but that part was never added to the original movie. It didn't gel well. It was a bit dark and morbid, and it didn't gel with the comedy side of it, so it wasn't added. It's also said that his name Beetlejuice derives from his fondness for eating beetles, which we see in the movies, and his favourite drink would be Beetlejuice. But with that said, the name Beetlejuice and the character was created by Michael McDowell, not by Tim Burton. And Michael McDowell created it while he was working on a horror script, and he created a character called Beetlejuice. This refers to a star in the Orion constellation, and McDowell's script was much darker, and Larry Wilson adapted it to be more on the comedy side. So there we have it for just a few details about Beetlejuice the character and a bit more into his background. So let's move on and have a look at the accessories. And here we are for all of the accessories that come with Beetlejuice. You can see that we have 8 hands in total. We have a couple of gripping hands here, one for like holding onto the heart, and then another kind of gripping hand there, which I'm not really too sure what it's for. Maybe an alternate hand for holding the heart, you know, if you want to hold it in the other hand. We have a couple of open palm gesturing hands. We have a pointing hand. We have a hand there for his nail file, and then we have the thumbs up with the flame on it, and then we have a hand for the microphone. Then we have his watch and his bracelet. We have the microphone, detailed enough, no paintwork on it, but there's a bit of detail on it, but not necessary to have so much detail on it. And then we have the heart, quite nicely done, some detail there, some, you know, vein work in it, and some aorta and ventricles and stuff at the top of it. And yeah, I'm quite content with it. I'm quite happy with it. It's not an accessory I'll be using, but I'm quite happy with it. Then we have his nail file, which there is a hand for holding the nail file, and this hand here. And it does have, if I can pick it up, it has a little nub in it there, which if you look closely, he has a little hole in his thumb just for sticking the little nub in, just to hold it in place and to stop it from falling out. Nice little touch by Hot Toys. And then we have his tongue that attaches to this head sculpt here just by magnet, as you can see. And we'll get into the head sculpts a bit later on. Obviously you can see there's 2 head sculpts. We'll get into a bit more detail on those a bit later on. And then we have the book for the recently deceased, and it has all the pages in it, which is a nice little touch as well. Very nice to have all of the pages and, you know, in the book of the recently deceased. So there we have it for his accessories. So moving on, let's have a look at his headstone, or his gravestone. Actually, I left out one accessory. I forgot to take it out of the box. We have his newspaper, The Afterlife, that he reads in the movie. Quite a lot of detail to it. The print seems to be all, you know, if you have a magnifying glass, I think that is all legible, to be honest, all the text in it. You can see we have some headlines there: caseworker strike continues, Ouija board curfew implemented, and a picture of Bob on the bottom. We have the same page, you know, it's doubled up basically, and we have the same page double printed here on the back and inside here as well. So as much as there is a lot of detail to it, it is doubled up for the printing of the pages. But there we have it for the final accessory that I'd forgotten about. So here we are for Beetlejuice's base. A very boring rectangular base. It's a Star Wars base essentially. Beetlejuice on the nameplate, which is it a sticker? No, it's printed on. A little bit of texture to it, but it's not too bad. It's acceptable. And then we have this little card here for choosing whether you want the green and black stripes on it, or whether you want it to mimic the grass from the model kit that he lives in. It doesn't. It looks more like real grass than the model kit, but I assume that's what it's supposed to be. So that's pretty much it for the base. Nothing outstanding, nothing crazy, but there we have it. And then we have his gravestone, his Beetlejuice gravestone. One plastic mold, a little bit of weight to it. It's not too bad. Quite a lot of detail to it. We have some nice detail of the skeletons on it, and the skeleton with the wings on the top of it there, and it's all very well detailed. That looks like stone. Some nice paintwork to it, a few different hues to it, some like green hues, like moss running through it there, and then the stone effect to it, which runs all the way around to the back. They haven't spared any detail with it. It's all detailed at the back as well. So very nicely done. The only issue I have with this gravestone is it's not quite in scale. If you look at it in the movie, it is just as tall as Beetlejuice. If I just grab the figure there, you can see it only just about comes up to his shoulders. So it is smaller than it should be. In the movie, if you see it, it's just as tall as Beetlejuice. So a little bit out of scale, but I'm quite pleased to have it nonetheless. So there we have it for his gravestone and his accessories. So let's move on and have a look at the figure itself. So here we have Beetlejuice standing straight up as he comes out of the box. And in my usual form, starting from bottom to top, we have his footwear. You can see that it's one complete boot. There's no need for a split boot. Nice little bit of detail to them. Textured boot. Nice little bit of weathering on the toe of them there as well. Very natural looking weathering. The eyelets on the laces are very well painted. Even the detail of the lace is quite nicely done. A bit of relief to it. Molded grip on the bottom. And we have a pair of red socks, which is a nice little touch that we won't actually get to see, but it's nice to have them there. And you can see there's plenty of clearance in the boots as well for plenty of articulation. And it is a nice soft material on the boots. So, you know, there's plenty of clearance for as much articulation as what's needed for this figure. The articulation isn't hampered by the boots, unlike the sideshow version. But moving on, having a look at his trousers, or his whole suit in general, to be honest, it is very dirty and grimy looking. Way more detailed and weathered than the sideshow version, and looking at this, it inspires me to try and weather up the sideshow version, make it look a bit more grubby. It's iconic black and white suit, although the black in it is kind of faded a little bit. It's not solid black, it's almost like a grey because it's so, dirty and grimy and faded. The dirt on it, it looks like it's part of the print. If you look closely, you can kind of see the print on it there. So it's not hand done, it's not painted on, it's printed on. It's a more efficient way of doing it rather than painting, with each individual one. So I can understand why Hot Toys have gone down that route of, printing the weathering on. Just looking at his stomach there, you can see he's quite well padded out. There's quite a lot of padding in the front of him there, which is movie accurate. But what that does is, because they haven't padded out the legs on top of that, it does leave a bit of a gap. If you're posing the leg forward, it's a very unnatural looking gap here, under the stomach, because the stomach comes out so far and the legs aren't. Unfortunately, if you do want to pose them in certain ways or articulate them in certain ways, you do get this unsightly gap under where the padding comes out so far. It is spot on, it is movie accurate for the stomach coming out. It is quite pot bellied in the movie. It's accurate. It's just unfortunate that for the figure there's a bit of a gap there when you move the legs. Again, the shirt is weathered up a little bit, and the tie is weathered up a little bit as well. Not as flamboyant a tie as he wears in the first movie, in the original one with the lights running up it. There's a little magnet on the back of the tie there, as you can see, which is a nice little touch for Hot Toys to do, just to keep it in place. It snaps back into place, so a nice little touch, and I wish more companies would do this with their ties on their figures to keep them in place, because a lot of figures, especially third party ones you get, the tie goes anywhere. Jacket is all grubby as well. Do we have a functioning pocket here? Non-functioning pocket, not really that necessary, no lining on it, so it's not, not necessary. And the same with the top pocket here. Proportions are okay on him. As I said, he does have the pot belly in the movie. Looks a bit square there in the shoulders as I'm looking at him there. And bit of a lump there in the back of it as well. What's going on? That wasn't like that when I first got the figure out of the box. Maybe if I just roll his shoulders forward there, he looks a bit more natural. That has actually corrected it there. I did have the shoulders rolled back a little bit too far. So that fixes everything, that sorts everything out. So I'll retract my previous statement about him being a bit out of proportion. I think I just had the shoulders rolled back a little bit too far. You can see all the dirt and grime that's printed onto the jacket there as well, and it really looks the part. It looks good. It looks, looks good enough. And like I said, I understand why Hot Toys done that. But let's move on and have a look at the head sculpt and see what we have. So here we are for the Michael Keaton Beetlejuice head sculpt. Although this figure is not labelled as an artisan, I'm not sure why it's not artisan or labelled as an artisan. We do have a loose strand there that I'm going to have to fix at some point. I'm just going to have to wet it up and, fix it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know why it wasn't labelled as an artisan. Maybe it keeps the price tag down a bit. I'm not sure, and it's very kind of up in the air as to what exactly qualifies as an artisan, just looking at this figure anyway. When you move the neck back, it interferes with the back of the collar of the jacket, so that is something that you're going to have to contend with. But as I said about the hair, why they didn't call it an artisan is it's very confusing. Like I said, it's what exactly qualifies as an artisan, I don't know. My only gripe with the hair is the hairline. It's just a little bit too straight. It could have done with being staggered a little bit. It's just a little bit too straight a line. Now, if I was to compare it to the sideshow version of the figure, there was huge issues with the hair on the sideshow version, and the hairline on the sideshow one was atrocious. So in comparison to that, it's far better. They've even added a little bit at the front, where sideshow didn't add that bit at the front. They just done it straight over, and it just didn't look accurate. It didn't look right. So it does have more accuracy with the little bit at the front just coming forward a little bit. Just looking at the details of the mold and mildew in his face, really, really well done, really spot on, really looks the part. It's got some really nice texture to it. There's some different shades of green running through it, running into some almost yellows, running around the mouth there. It's nicely done as well. It's not as defined as around the side of the head as it shouldn't be. It blends in nicely, and down at the top of the head we have accurate kind of mould. As for the likeness to Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, this is so real looking. This figure is really real looking, although it's a character. The open mouthed, smile on his face, I have absolutely no problems with. I think it looks great, and it looks so well. The teeth are all dirty and grimy, as they should be. You can see the tongue in there, and I really, really see the likeness to Michael Keaton at his age, playing the sequel, playing Beetlejuice in the sequel. It really, I'm so impressed with how this figure looks. It is absolutely fantastic looking. Michael Keaton's in his 60s now, and I think they've captured all of that detail. Now, granted, I'm more of a fan of the original Beetlejuice movie. I'm all in with Keaton, so anything Keaton, any representation of or any character Keaton played, I'm all in for. Even looking down his neck, you can see how the texture and the green mold comes down from the head sculpt, and it's uniformed with the head sculpt. It really looks good. You can see the definition of the creases in the forehead and the crow's feet around the eyes, as he should have, for a guy of his age. I think Keaton's in his 60s now. So, the darkness around the eyes is pretty spot on. It's not too dark, and it's really, really accurately done. And even as far as the upper lip there, we have a little shadow of of stubble. And even on the face, the side of the face, a little bit of shadow of stubble as well. I'm really not happy with this strand of hair that just keeps coming forward. I'm gonna have to fix that and futz with it and get it right. So there we have it for head sculpt number 1. As I said, really, really impressed with it. So the alternate head sculpt. Here we are for the alternate tongue out head sculpt from that one scene in the movie. In my opinion, a bit of a gimmick. Not a head sculpt I'd be using, simply because I buy these figures for the realism of them, and the alternate head sculpt is far more realistic than this one. The other head sculpt, the more I look at it, I just I'm so impressed with it. But this is a nice option to have. Like I said, not a head sculpt I'd be using. The tongue does look very separate. It does look, like it is a separate piece. Obviously, because it is separate and it's on a magnet, but it does look at, and there's not a whole lot of depth to the mouth either. So a little bit two-dimensional, the mouth itself, in the back of it. You can just see the teeth popping out at the top there, and you can see a line as well where the teeth are, and the mouth are separate. The eyeballs coming out, it does look the part. They're quite glossy, they're shiny, I've no major complaints about this head sculpt. And the hair on this head sculpt is slightly different. It seems to be a little bit shorter than the previous head sculpt, and it seems a bit more puffy at the top. And it is pushed back a little bit further as well. You can see a bit more of the ear on this head sculpt, so it is a slight different hairstyle than the previous sculpt that we just looked at. But again, the details are all there, all the mold and mildew, the crow's feet, and the wrinkles on his forehead. Just not for me, this head sculpt. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just not for me. But like I said, it's nice to have options, and I don't know, maybe at some point I might swap over to this head sculpt, because I do have the sideshow version of Beetlejuice, so maybe I'll use this head sculpt as an alternate from time to time, but it's definitely not going to be my primary head sculpt for him. So there we have it for the alternate head sculpt, and that's pretty much it for the review. So I've left you with some images there. I really had a lot of fun posing this figure up. I can't get over how realistic that head sculpt looks. It is absolutely phenomenal in hand. So like I said, that pretty much wraps up the review. Please do hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I suppose I'll leave it at that. And I will catch you in the next one. So take care and thanks.